everyone. I'm coming to you from River Legacy for our Wild Wednesday series. And today I'm going to talk about backyard hummingbird feeding, how to attract them, how to properly store your nectar, how to choose your feeder, how to make your sucrose solution, and then we're going to talk about placement. First of all, I want to tell you that in the city, or around this area, we're going to have two species of hummingbirds that you're going to be able to attract in your backyard. They would be the black-chinned hummingbird and the ruby-throated hummingbird. Those are our two species that you're going to see around here. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in Arizona, you would have 13 species to choose from. But that's all right. These two species do frequent our backyards. Let's talk about habitat. Even if you live in a pretty dense suburban area like I do with almost a 0-lot line yard, you can still attract hummingbirds to your yard. And you do that through the use of plants that produce the nectar that they like. And behind me, I want to show you just really quick, they haven't bloomed in full bloom yet, but these are Turk's caps. You can plant these in your yard also, and they are a great hummingbird attractant. The reason why is because they have this brilliant red color which those birds are attracted to, and they have nectar. So this is an example of Turk's cap, and these will be blooming profusely in a couple of weeks. Above my head is a species of small tree called a desert willow. Actually, this is a hybrid. Again, it's not red, but it does have nectar they like, and you can see it's got that wonderful tubular shape that attracts them. You can go to a specialty nursery, you can go to the Native Plant Society and find a plant list for yourself, and either by accident or design, if you have these plants in your yard, you probably already have hummingbirds hanging around. So, how do we choose our feeders? Well, there's tons of feeders on the market now. And I have my two favorites, and then I'm going to show you a couple that I don't recommend. First of all, for a beginner, for like $12 delivered, you can get 4 of these tube or vacuum style feeders. They're simple to operate, easy to clean. They only hold about 3 ounces of liquid, and that's fine because you're going to have to change these every 2 to 3 days anyhow. So I'm going to demonstrate how these work. You of course fill the feeder with your nectar solution, refasten it, and you hang it about 5 feet above the ground. You don't want to get any lower. You don't want a cat jumping up and slapping a hummingbird back or any other predator. So about 5 feet from the ground. Now you'll notice this has a flower on it. That is really not necessary. The hummingbirds are smart enough, curious enough where they can find this nozzle. This is a wonderful attractant for mold and insects, so I usually just take these off. The bad thing about these vacuum style feeders is that they are prone to leak. That little inexpensive plastic can warp easily, get in the heat, and so forth. So if yours does leak, don't despair, don't throw it away. Just get a piece of plumber's tape, wrap it around there, and then you can seal it up. I would take 2 of these, fill them, place them in your yard, maybe one by your kitchen, maybe one by your living room outside, and see what happens. Also, you can always have 2 clean, fresh ones to swap out. So these are the little vacuum style tube feeders that I recommend for beginners. Easy to clean, inexpensive. This is a little bit more complex, a little bit sturdier. You can start with one of these, and this is my favorite. It's made by a company called Aspect, and this is called High View because it has a perch where the birds can land on it. They don't necessarily have to have a perch. They're quite capable of feeding without one, but it's fun if they do perch, you can get a good look at them. What do I like about this? It has a very sturdy hanging hook here, all right? It has not a thread on top, but a lift-off top. The bottom is very sturdy. Notice that this one has 3 feeding ports. The new one has 4 feeding ports. You do not need more than 4 feeding ports because you're never going to have more than 1 or 2 birds that will tolerate each other's presence at the same feeder. If you live in Arizona or in Tennessee where my daughter-in-law does, it's a different story, but here just a 4-port feeder will be fine. Also, it's easy to clean. And just sitting here talking to you, I thought I had a clean feeder, but I noticed a little bit of black mold here. So cleanliness is an extremely important factor in keeping these things. So I'm going to have to scrub this, or it may be embedded in the glass now. A little Clorox, bleach, and water to soak them would be fine. The best thing about this feeder, I think, is it has a built-in ant moat. That's M-O-A-T. You put about 1/3 of a cup of water in here, and it prevents ants from getting into your feeder. Personally, I have not had that much a problem with ants, but if you do have a problem with them, it's great to have a built-in ant moat that you can keep them out. Or if your feeder doesn't have a built-in ant moat, you can buy them separately, hang it like that, and there you go. Bees have never been a problem for me, so I'm not going to discuss a bee guard yet, but be known that that is available too. All right, we've got our plumber's tape, our tube feeder, our saucer style feeder that I really liked. And we're going to talk about actual nectar now. Rule number 1, and this is a rule, and you can look at Cornell University or Audubon, National Audubon Society. This is important. Only use plain cane sugar. Don't try and use brown sugar. Don't use raw sugar. Don't use molasses or honey because it ferments and spoils so quickly. This is what you're going to need. And your ratio of sugar to water is 3 or 4 to 1. I usually split the difference and use about a little over a 1.25 cups of sugar for 4 cups of water. This is what I keep in my refrigerator, self-made mixture. And I already know the markings, so I don't have to measure anything. I know exactly how much about 1.3 cups of sugar is. I pour that in. I take my electric water kettle and my boiling water, and I fill it to the quart mark. Then I stir it. This keeps for about 2 weeks in a refrigerator. If you want to make more and keep it stored for a longer time, you can go ahead and boil on stovetop the sugar and water, and that's called a simple syrup. If you've ever made craft cocktails or lemonade, you know that simple syrup will store for a long time. So you can either make simple syrup or just use boiling water and make it quickly. Do not use any type of pre-packaged or pre-made hummingbird nectar. They have preservatives, anti-caking properties in them, and the biggest problem of all, they have FD red dye number 40. We do not recommend, no one recommends feeding dyed water to your hummingbird. The nectar from these flowers is not red, it is clear. All nectar is transparent that they're going to be looking for. It is the red here that we're tracking. So don't use a petroleum red dye number 40 to dye your nectar. It's not good, probably not good for those little tiny birds, and they don't need it. Remember, they weigh as much as a nickel. That's all they weigh. So think of any type of petro-based chemical in that little tiny body. Don't do it. All right, you've got your nectar, either used by boiling water or simple syrup. You've got it stored in the refrigerator. You're going to change your feeder at least every 3rd day. If it's over 100 degrees, you need to do it every 2nd day. That is very important. That black mold, if that gets in your solution, your birds are going to abandon it, and you could possibly make them sick. So you got to make a commitment. So here are the rules so far. Use cane sugar, plain cane sugar and water, and you've got to keep your feeders scrupulously clean. This one could even be put in the dishwasher. All right, I'm going to discuss one more feeder. This is a broken one. This was an art glass feeder that I bought. And art glass means those fancy hand-blown, beautiful hummingbird feeders that we're all attracted to. They cost a lot of money. Be careful that they don't sacrifice function over form. This one was terrible. It leaked. You can see how large diameter that tube was. That little plastic cap on the end, moldy. So be careful if you buy an art form blown glass hummingbird feeder. Make sure you can clean it. So where are we going to put it? All right, I've already pointed out some nectar plants and even a tree near me. You need to keep these in the shade, not in direct sun. So you need to keep this in the shade. If you can find like an edge, we have a concrete apron here, and then it is edged by our native plants here, our Turk's cap and our tree. So I would probably hang this feeder right behind me. Also, it's visible from the door. So either pick an area off your kitchen sink where you spend a lot of time, or in the family area. If you've got a patio that's shaded, you can tuck it up underneath those eaves. The hummingbirds are really brave. They'll come out and fly right up to your window. So after about 2 weeks, if you haven't seen any activity, you might try and move it in a different place. If you're using 2 of these, you can of course test 2 locations at the time, but you may have to move it around. If you still don't get hummingbirds, you need to take a better look at your habitat. They are so much fun. I love hummingbirds. You know, if we had the same metabolism that a hummingbird does, we would have to eat 150,000 plus calories a day. Wouldn't that be fun? So go online, look for your feeder. You can visit Wild Birds Unlimited here. They'll be glad to help you in choosing a feeder, or go online. There's lots of online resources. Have fun, good luck. One more thing, you're going to keep your feeder up from around the 1st of May to the end of September. Good luck and happy hummers.